Yeah, my job, because I managed somehow to ruin my leg just in time for us to start shooting, my job was mostly in prep and pre-production. And what that means is that the writer, in this case also the director, comes to you with usually a first or second pass of a script and hands it to me, in this case, to break down into its various parts so that we can see what it will take to shoot said script and how much it would cost us to do so. And sometimes that's the good news, and usually it's not. When you hand it back to them and their eyes get very large, and you're saying to them, and you have there's a lot of work for a child in this script, which is its own set of issues, because children of various ages can only work for certain amounts of time. If you're shooting during the school year, you also have to school them. So, and they can only be in front of the lens for so long.
Which is why we shot during the summer holidays.
Exactly right.
But you still need an on-set teacher.
Yes, you do.
You don't have to teach them anything, but they have to be there and it makes sense looking after their rights and so on.
Right. This is all brought by, it's called the Jackie Coogan Law. And it was brought early on because there were parents and teachers who would basically work children for as many hours as there was daylight and then work them again the next day. So we have to be very careful about these things, and it's done, I think, in the interest of the child, and usually you can find a little bit of extra time here and there to shoot a child, but when you have a child like that child that you managed to cast, which I think was brilliant, you hit pay dirt because she delivers and she's so amazingly, not just photogenic, but the camera loves her. So you get pay dirt, you get everything out of that, and with a director that understands what it takes to direct children, which is not, by the way, an easy task, you get it all. So my work basically was in sending Richard probably 8 different schedules by the time it was time to start shooting that looked at doing things in different ways, and to be there for his assistant director, Evelyn Ortiz, who did quite a masterful job for a young first assistant director. It's not an easy task doing all the things that she was called on to do, which is shooting at night, shooting children, shooting an actress who was only available 3 days, I believe, out of the entire schedule. So what you notice is that actress was all over the place. She was in many locations.
Talking about the actress who plays the mom, who is our biggest star. She's not a household name in all of America, but in Latin America and all of Latin America, she's a very well-known actress. She came up for telenovelas and so on. So she was only available for like 3 days, so we had to squeeze all of her scenes into those 3 days.
So you have that added action of you have an actor that's only available a certain amount of days, you have to put them in many different locations, which you have to somehow schedule all at the same time so that you can get them in and out of there. And you have children who can only work so many hours. So it's a bit of magic, and when you have a young first AD, first assistant director, doing that job, I can't say enough about this young woman. I think she has a huge career ahead of her. She was just brilliant, and so my job was basically to assist her via my bum leg and a phone and a computer in getting from A to B and back again, and she did a masterful job, I think, for Richard, and it shows. It's on the screen, and I couldn't be more proud to be associated with this.
Thank you. Yeah. Cynthia's underselling her job a little bit because she was kind of a mastermind behind our schedule and budget, and we had a very small budget. We only had 17 days to shoot in 5 different cities, including a big road trip to Helena, California, and with kids you're only allowed to work 8 hours in a day. Of course, that sounds like a reasonable day to a normal person, but to a film person, it's like, where are my 15 hours? We're just getting started, and the kids gotta leave. So thank you, Cynthia, for helping us crack that puzzle.
Yeah, it is a puzzle, but again, I mean, I know you probably have questions for him, but when you have somebody, I was talking to on the way down about, it isn't often that you find a writer-director that can wear both those hats well. Because often your writer, if they write what we call a soft script, like a rom-com, and it has some edgy stuff in it, when they go to direct, they don't have the edge. Or if they're a hard-edged writer, there's nothing, suddenly you don't like anybody, because when they direct, they forget to put the heart in it. So this man manages to, straddle both those worlds and bring you both the pathos and the. There were moments there where I just wanted the scene to end because it was so difficult to be in, and then you understand that it is difficult, but it was really lovely.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Checks in the mail.
Anybody have questions you'd like to ask?
Yeah, Richard, just describe
Give me a hardball question.
Yeah.
We're doing soft pitches right now.
the breakdown of the 17 days for the amount of shooting you had to do, and how much storyboarding and scheduling did you have to put into this?
Yeah, I wish we had time for storyboarding. I had this fantasy where I was going to have a couple of months at least before shooting, where I was working with the cinematographer and visiting locations and doing storyboards. And it just never happened. What actually happened is that our main producer with a capital P that was signed on to produce the project from beginning to end retired from the business about a month before we were due to start shooting. And we were going to be shooting in Albuquerque, Mexico. So within about a month, we had to turn it around, shoot in the Bay Area to find all our locations from scratch. And so my time to actually do, so the storyboards went out the window. What I did do with Fraser Bradshaw, the DP, was we did, at least for the first 3 or 4 days, we did just a super rough floor plan and with setups, like where the camera's going to be, and shot lists. And that was very helpful for the first 3 or 4 days at least, and then even that was I think starting to go out the window by the 5th or 6th day as we needed to just start sleeping. I don't think I slept at all for the first 6 days. And part of it was just my own adrenaline, of course, doing this for the first time. So yeah, it was really literally sort of seat of the pants, and a lot of the prep work that I wanted to do did not get to do. And I think I only got away with it because actually Fraser was the DP. So Fraser Bradshaw was the DP, but also a producer, and he's also how I met Cynthia. And it's wonderful having a DP who's also a producer / director, and so he had a very good idea about he wasn't going to let me miss a shot that I would need to piece the scene together, and so he was just good insurance on that. And yeah, he was also great at sort of helping run the crew as well. So yeah, did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Yes.
How did you come to this story?
Yeah, so I started working on the story actually 10 years ago. I live in the Mission District in San Francisco. My wife teaches at an elementary school there. And a student of hers, she was teaching 3rd grade at the time, a student of hers, this very bright, engaged girl, suddenly started acting really sullen, and she would get in fights with her peers for no reason my wife could figure out. And it actually took her a long time to build up enough trust with the girl and her mom to find out from them that the father had just been deported. And that was a huge shock to me because I knew that San Francisco was a sanctuary city, and 10 years ago I naively thought that meant we didn't have raids in San Francisco. And of course, we found out, of course, we have lots of raids in San Francisco, and all this was happening literally under my nose, and I just couldn't get that story out of my head. And then around the same time, I met a wonderful writer called Levien, who writes these great books for preteen girls, and just happens to have also been a teacher at that same school. And I met her at a barbecue for teachers and ex-teachers. And she had the story idea, what if a girl comes home from school and her mom's been taken away by the immigration police and she's just left on her own? And I said, that sounds like an amazing idea, when do you think you'll write the story? And then I kept getting back to her, and then we ended up working on the first draft of the script together. So that was the whole premise of the girl coming home was really Levien's.
personally.
So, tell us about how you worked with the actors. Did you have rehearsal time?
Yeah. Again, so the casting process was really was cool. First of all, we found we did have great luck in finding Heidi Levitt was our casting director. And it's one of those pieces of fortune that you just need. She's a Hollywood heavyweight casting director. She cast JFK and Natural Born Killers and films by Wim Wenders, and she cast the movie The Artist that won Best Picture, and she won the Casting Association Award for that. So when she puts a notice out in LA saying, casting director of JFK and Natural Born Killers looking for the next great 12-year-old Latina girl and 6 to 9-year-old Latino boy, I think that all the best kids in LA came out to audition or sent in tapes, viewed them all. My top picks out of the tapes or the videos we got were the two that you saw on screen, but we brought them a bunch of kids together for a callback and went down there. And those kids were amazing live as they were on video. They're also the only two kids that managed to immediately establish a chemistry together as brother and sister that was completely believable. And they're also just really cute. They've only been acting. Isabella Riddy was 12 when we shot, and Jason Garcia, Isabella Alvarez is the amazing guitar on the movie. Her brother Neto was played by Jason Garcia, and he was 9, but he looked a little younger. And they'd only been acting for like a year or two, of course, because they hadn't been around on the planet that long. But they wanted to sit in on each other's auditions, like Jason was saying. Isabella, can I sit in on your audition? And she said, sure. And so he sat there and he said, I think you nailed that. They were just so cute and so supportive. And I remember just turning to Heidi, the casting director, and saying, can we just tell them they were the part right now? And she said, sure. And so we went out the hallway and the parents were there. And it was just a really emotional moment for me, because that's the moment. Before then, we didn't really have a movie, because you run a movie where the kids are the sort of main driving force. It just can never happen. And she was the most amazing actress.
She was amazing.
Yeah. And then in terms of directing them, honestly, Cynthia was making a nice compliment about directing actors. I did direct a short film before this called Immersion. And that was a film where we had a bunch of rehearsal, and it was almost all untrained actors and untrained director, right, being me. And we would definitely workshop and try and find out a way to work, and they were teaching me and I was teaching them for sure. This was not like that, because we had like half a day of rehearsal, which was the day before we started shooting. We didn't have budget for any more than that. So I had to direct the kids in basically exactly the same way that I was directing the adults. Everyone got the first take to themselves, it was based on their own interpretation of the script, and then I would give really small notes, and the notes would never be because something was wrong, it would be because I wanted a variation in the edit room. And our schedule was so tight at 17 days that if I was having to do kind of acting lessons or more rehearsal on set, the whole thing wouldn't have worked. So it was another kind of thing that just sort of barely came together. I wish I could take more credit for the kids, honestly, but
I want to jump in here.
For casting, maybe take a little bit of credit, but I chose the right ones.
Yeah, I mean,
out of the ones that Heidi found for me, I picked the right ones.
Having done this for a while, it is all, I would say, much of your problem, especially when you have children acting, is handling casting, but it is the director who gets the hit off that casting call that really makes it. And it's obvious to me, because they were so natural and it was so easy to watch them and believe them, that you had that secondary thing going on with those kids where they totally pick up on what it's about. So that takes a really great directorial skill, because I've worked with many directors who don't have it, and it's really hard. And there are many takes, and they still don't get it. But these kids really picked up on what your vision was. So
I guess another thing I can maybe take a little bit of credit for is about a third of the way through the production, I was starting to have these not arguments, but very intense conversations with Isabella about her character, and I kept trying to shift her a little bit, because she was playing it a little bit different from how I had imagined it when I was writing it. I guess basically, I'd imagine someone who's a little bit more, who perhaps would sort of, the cracks in the armor would sort of show a little bit more, and she was playing more like sort of Cleopatra or whatever, and I would have this sort of discussion with her, and don't you think this Ethan might do this or that? And she was like, no, she's not going to do. She just had such a clear vision in her own head of just being super strong and tough and having all these layers of armor that would only crack open like once or twice in the whole film, and so in the end I was just like, you seem very convinced of this. We're just going to go with that. I had to respect that she found a slightly different vision of the character than I had. And that's the joy of filmmaking, right? It's a collaborative process. And I think the film ends up being much better than you imagined because you allow other voices.
Yeah, assistant director always says, you make 3 films. You make the film that was written, you make the film that you shoot, and you make the film that ends up on the screen. And so there's a lot of things that happen in between all of that, and I think that's really indicative of what you just spoke to, which is especially a young, fresh actor's certainty about who that character is that you were willing to go with.
Yeah, I mean, she had to have that, right? She's carrying the whole movie, unless she has a really firm idea of who she is and what is going to budge her or what is going to move her and what's not, then the whole film doesn't work. And she just had that from day one. It was amazing. Yeah. Well, sorry, you were next, I think.
What was the budget and your funding sources?
Yeah, so we shot it for around 200,000. So that's end of filming, and then by the time we were done with post, it was more like 350,000 or something. So, and what was the other question?
Funding sources.
Funding sources. So we got a lot of money from SF Film that runs the San Francisco International Film Festival. So we got, I think, 4 grants from them. So we got they have a grants program called the Raymond SF Film Raymond grants. And they're specifically for fiction films with a social justice theme. So we got the very first one of those that they did for screenwriting back like in 2009. And then they also supported us for development and production and post. And that was probably about something between a third and a half of the budget was just that. And they did an Indiegogo campaign, and then a small number of investors, all of which were actually friends and family. I worked hard trying to get some more professional investors involved and did not do that. So it ended up being pretty tight. But we it was one of those things where we did what you're not supposed to do, which we had exactly enough money to shoot and no money for post. But the window was closed. We had a lot of cast. It was summer. We had to do it in the summer holiday. If we pushed into the school year, as Cynthia was just telling you, all of a sudden their hours, I think, go down, and then some of those hours have to be actually doing schoolwork, and so the whole thing is moving forward. So yeah, we got through production and then did our Indiegogo campaign for post and applied for the grant for post, and that all worked out. So.
I had a question about the character of the brother. Not the brother, the uncle figure.
Yeah.
I understand the story humanizes this very contemporary situation by giving by giving this sort of road journey. But my question to you is, how did you conceive of this uncle figure? Is he a child in need of learning compassion, or is he someone who's jaded from abuse or from bad experience?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, the question is about the character of the uncle. For me, I think he's more the former. I think for me, he's very much a child who just never grew up, and of course, Atan is a kid who's really prematurely adult the very first time we meet her. So in my own mind, it was kind of almost a reverse coming of age story where he has to grow up and take some responsibility, and she, I guess, has this great sense of responsibility from the beginning, but she's sort of desperate for at least some moments where she can give that responsibility to somebody else and just be a kid again. And she doesn't get to do it that much, but like once or twice in the film, she gets to do that. So
is there a turning point in the script where you feel like the change happens? I mean, aside from them bonding usually on the screen.
Right.
Is there,
I don't know, when do you think? What do you mean when he begins to take more responsibility?
Yeah, besides the pathos that are going on screen, is there like did you think of a moment where in the script that would have to take place?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the script structure is pretty traditional. I mean, in a way, it's almost like a romantic comedy, right? They have it's a sort of slippery slope, their relationship, and it keeps being sort of one step forward and two steps back and so on. And he keeps getting to this point where he's about to commit more thoroughly or just be a better human, and then his own sort of demons drag him back again. So, I think it's right around the halfway point where they have their big, they're dancing in the diner, but then they have a huge argument right after that. So, and then they do that and stuff. So, it's. I like to leave a little bit of that to your imagination, but I guess the short answer to the question is I think I just envisioned it as a series of very small steps and then backward steps and so on. And even by the end, there's the question at the end of what do they do now? And of course, if Itan is to go back to the US, which is one of her options, who would you stay with? And I think probably maybe at least half the people in the audience would think, well, probably the uncle would be an okay person to stay with. Maybe half the rest of the audience might think, actually, maybe not. So I don't know. It's still and even I'm not exactly sure he'd be the right person for her to stay with. I mean, I'm glad for him that he's being integrated more into the family. And certainly he would be a help to her, but should you live with it like that?
Well, it's interesting that we have the option either to empathize with the child, like adult, or the willful, strong, precocious kid.
Right.
That we have that choice is interesting.
Yeah. It's certainly what's appealing to me, the idea of doing this kind of reverse sort of coming of age story. Felt like, and the character of the uncle too was definitely a turning point in the writing of the script, because I've been working on it for 10 years, so about 7 years I was working on the script. As an example, the end of this movie right now used to be the halfway point of the script, and then they all went back to their home village in Oaxaca, and a whole other story happened there. And I finally realized I was trying to write 2 movies in one, but that took me years to realize that. And the other thing was that the original kind of helper character that we came up with, actually I guess it was from Marlene's first story, was not the uncle. It was a substitute teacher that Itan has at her school that she doesn't like very much. And we sort of went back and forth on that, and in the end, I remember one sort of writing retreat where I just went with a friend of mine and we just made a list of all possible types of character that person could be. And we finally came up with this uncle character, which is a little bit more, locked in to part of the family. And family is such a big theme of the movie that just felt good. And then when we made him bad, then all of a sudden, not all the immigrants in the story are perfect, or not all of them are even that rootable or likable when you first meet them. And that felt really good too, because I didn't want to make a simplistic story where all the immigrants were good and the audience sort of feels like they're supposed to think, oh, poor them, poor idealized version of a person who's being oppressed. So it felt really nice to have someone who's very not perfect in the mix there. So
That appealed to the majority of the audience watching the film.
I think part of the appeal of this film is that it's messy. There really aren't any things tied up with strings, and even in the end, you're left with the messiness of life, and there's still more to come.
So certainly the real life situation for any family going through this is very, very messy. And when I began the script, I didn't have kids. now I have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old, and so level of emotion around the thought of being separated from my own kids. My attitude to the whole story has completely changed now. And I probably used to think about, these family situations are messy. And now thinking about if I had my own kids, if I was deported from the country and my own kids were possibly in foster care, or possibly with a relative that I might not like or I might not even trust, but that's just where they end up. And I have no control over that. The thought of that is just terrifying. So.
What year did you film it?
That's a very good question. So we actually shot it in the summer of 2016, right before the last election. So yeah, so every what I view as instance of human rights abuse in this film is all based on stuff that was happening in the previous administration, actually, which is something that surprises a lot of people. One thing that the current administration has been doing certain things which are perhaps more overtly extreme than the previous administration, but there's a lot of just abuse that has been happening for many, many years. And that's the bad news. I think the good news is that, in my view, a lot of this stuff we should be able to get some bipartisan agreement on. Let's set aside for a minute the question of what to do with every undocumented person in the country and just talk about, well, if you lock someone up, should they get a phone call? If they have kids, should they get a phone call? And a lot of Americans are surprised that citizens were guaranteed a phone call, and immigrant detainees not guaranteed a phone call, and it is common for them not to be able to use the phone, be transferred out of state, for their loved ones not to hear from them for days, if not weeks, if not months, and not know if they're alive or dead. And so I think, this is America, it's the 21st century, we can do better than that. Even if you think all undocumented people should be deported, surely we can agree upon that. So that's a big part of my hope with this film. There's a list of other abuses, a lot of which I think we should be able to get some sort of agreement on, even avoiding the larger issues. So, yeah.
So what are the plans for distributing this film?
So we're actually already on a TV channel called Fuse TV, which is on Dish Network, and you may already have it, not any of it, honestly. So that started last month, and they have the US broadcast rights for 3 years. So.
It's a thrill I still don't quite
it's the Oscars, we have to leave.
Fuse TV.
I think Joey's rushing to set up the music, but it's playing. So it's playing here and at the Roxy for just for this week. We did a small theatrical in LA last month. So we've used both of those to get press. And we're going to be releasing digitally in the new year. So we'll be putting it up on Amazon and hopefully iTunes and in Vimeo, maybe Hulu, places like that, and selling DVDs. And also doing educational distribution, because my wife is a teacher. She's going to be making a lesson plan. We'll be talking to, trying to find the right educational distributor. So, and we'll be doing, I think, a lot of, when we did the short film, we ended up doing a lot of screenings at universities and schools. So I imagine we'll be doing a lot of that same thing with this film. And Fuse has actually been a really supportive partner. And with the previous film, they had a screening on Capitol Hill. So I'm already talking with them about that. We'd love to find the right moment to do that, perhaps in 2020, either in the lead up to the election or around a specific piece of legislation. So yeah. So there's lots more planned. And if you're interested in, we're collisionsmovie.com, and on all social media it's Collisions Movie, so Facebook, Collisions Movie, Instagram, Twitter, and so on. And we have a mailing list, so you can keep up with us.
Well, I wanted to thank you for having the uncle have a redemptive moment, because I really was coming thinking it's going to be the most depressing thing. And to have him come around was rewarding, if nothing else was.
Yeah, and of course, that was the other main goal of introducing him as a character, because I wanted to make this film about a serious issue, which depresses the hell out of me most of the time I think about it. And I wanted to make a movie that I would see on a Sunday night and not want to shoot myself at the end of it. And so having this character of the uncle that's way outside of it, has basically exiled himself from the family, figure out a way to start getting back into that family, that was huge for me. And, so, yeah.
It was a good move.
Thank you.
Thank you all.